Hey guys, welcome back. It's movie time, and I want to say this week's, but I don't know if I'm going to be doing this every week. This month's of movie time is to me a good one. It's called Just Right. It's from 2010, and it's one of my faves. And you all let me know after we're done what you all think. We begin the movie seeing Leslie, who is played by Queen Latifah, leaving her house, telling her father, who's played by James Pickens, not to destroy it. So she heads to the medical center for work as a physical therapist. And then we later see her go out on a blind date that night. Everything looks like it's going great on her date until it's the end of the night where she is told any man that gets you is going to be beyond lucky. So she's basically friend zone. And it's something that she's so accustomed to hearing that as the guy is saying it, she's saying it with him, what he's going to say. So you see Leslie is a beautiful woman. She's not fat, but she is considered plus size. In my opinion, there is a difference. She is healthy, she's fit, she carries herself with confidence, and looks great in the comfortable attire that we see her wear in the movie. Only thing is, a physical therapist is the best way to, well, no, I don't want to say to describe her. That's what she does, as well as being a diehard basketball fan, and she's looking for love. But it's hard to do that when everyone sees you as just a friend. So we see her come home to talk to her good friend, god sister, cousin, whatever you want to call her, Morgan. And Morgan is played by Paula Patton. Now, Morgan is irresponsible. She's flighty and she's materialistic. She currently lives with Leslie because she has no home and the BMW that she had has been repossessed, which makes me feel like she also doesn't have a job. I think she didn't have a job in the movie either. Her main focus at this point is to become a trophy wife. So her way of doing that, her goal right now, is through the basketball league. So they head to this basketball game where Leslie is dressed in jeans and a Nets jersey, and Morgan is dressed in a dress that you look like you're gonna go to a date with, I don't know, the club, something along those lines. Leslie's mother, who is played by Pam Grier, feels like Leslie needs to be more like Morgan, to the point where we see her in the movie compare her at every turn, like she should Lord, I can't say the word. Like she should have the desire to be like Morgan, even though at this point, Morgan has nothing going for her with the exception of her supposed looks, because Morgan is staying in the guest room at the new home that Leslie has purchased. Following a New Jersey Nets basketball game, Leslie helps star player of the Nets team, Scott McKnight, who is played by Common, at the gas station. He got a new car and he didn't know how to open the gas tank. She sees him talking on the phone, struggling to get it. She shows him how to open it. So they share a friendly conversation about basketball and jazz, and he ends up inviting her to his birthday party. He walks her to the car, tries to open her door, but the big dent that's on the left side of the door makes it hard for him to open it. Pay attention to that because that's going to come into play later. We see Leslie and Morgan get ready for this birthday party that's going to be at Scott's, because she comes home. She lets her know, how did it go with you at the basketball game after y'all left and you went with your friends, da 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 da. Well, I met Scott McKnight and I have tickets to his, well, not tickets, I have an invite to his party. So they're getting ready. Her mother walks in with special earrings, diamonds, that have been in the family for years. She says those earrings have helped her get Leslie's dad. So you would think, knowing this, that this is a vital heirloom to your family, that you would decide to give it to Leslie to wear. But that's not what she did. She says, now, Leslie, I know these aren't your style, and I'm going to give them. And she hands them to Morgan. But Morgan, will you wear them? It's like you're sliding your daughter left and right. Leslie looks disappointed, but she kind of shrugs it off. They end up attending the party, and her and Common are sitting there. She hands him a card. She says they ain't got no money in it, but she hands him the card, and they're looking like they're having a moment when they are interrupted by Morgan. Morgan quickly sets her eyes on Scott. She pretends to be a volunteer at a homeless shelter because Leslie told her that that's something that he does. And that's part of the conversation that she heard him having while he was at the gas station struggling to open up his tank. She tells Leslie that they have to leave because she has to go to the shelter. So her friend that was extremely excited about being invited to this party at this place is now having to leave, even though you're her plus one, because of a lie that you're telling as a way to try to catch this man. Me personally, if I were Leslie, Morgan would be having to catch a cab home, but that's not how Leslie operates. So she claims to have no interest in Scott at all. Because he tries to, say, why you got to go so soon? Just stay. And she's like, she doesn't do the ball players and walks off. She claims to have no interest. But the next day, he's intrigued. He ends up tracking down Morgan. I don't know who he talked to, because really it wasn't Morgan that he tracked down. It was Leslie, because Morgan didn't have her own place. So he had to track her down at Leslie's place. He shows up to her house, asks Morgan if she's going to go on a date with him. Even that is a mess, because the girl looks a mess, and she goes through all this stuff to make herself look a certain way when she comes down, because she wants to give the illusion at all times that she's put together. So just completely forget that you were vibing with Leslie, because he was vibing with her a little bit, but I guess that didn't matter, because if you weren't vibing with her at the gas station, then you wouldn't have even invited her to your party. But so easily we get distracted with the little shiny penny, and I guess he got distracted with the shiny penny. She says yes to the date, and at that point, they're inseparable. I mean, we see them going to clubs together, her sitting with the wives at the basketball game, her being in magazine spreads with him. This is Morgan's dream. Leslie is later invited to a house party at Scott's, where she's given a tour by Morgan. She shows her master bedroom and tells her where they're going to put the nursery. And Leslie's like, oh my goodness, you've known him for 3 months and you already trying to trap him by being pregnant? And Morgan's like, no, I'm not pregnant, but I am in love. She says, I know I went after him for all the wrong reasons, but I like him. I didn't believe it when she said it, and neither did Leslie. At this point, Morgan has been dating him for 3 months. Like, come on, girl. You fell in love that quickly with this man that originally you just wanted his money. Even though it's only been 3 months, he ends up proposing to her at this party, and Leslie expresses some skepticism because she knows that Morgan is more concerned about the fame than the money. But she is ultimately happy for Morgan. He gets congratulated by his basketball player friends who say, congratulations, she's gorgeous, you did well. So he did well because she's pretty. He did a good job because she's pretty. What else do you know about this woman that he did well to have? His mother, Ella, is played by the beautiful, the talented Felicia Rashad, and she is not a fan of Morgan. She pulls her son to the side and it says, are you sure about this? He claims she's different, Mom. She's different. She's very special. But he doesn't even know Morgan. Morgan is the type who will go out to eat, and even though she's starving, she's not going to eat in public. Morgan wasn't doing any of the things that she presented herself to be doing. She's not into charity work. She only started because she said that's what she does, and she has to do that because that's what Scott does. Morgan doesn't have a pot to piss in, if we're being honest, and she wouldn't have even this situation if it weren't for Leslie. But she's engaged. She's happy. That's that. So it's now I think it was the 2009 All-Star game. At the game, Scott ends up going up for a basket. He drops down and he has a torn PCL injury. He ends up being told that this could put his entire career in jeopardy. So his knee is jacked up, basically. His doctor says if rehab doesn't work, there's no way he can play in the NBA on an unstable knee. He needs to begin rehabilitation immediately, and I mean aggressively. So his manager, Nelson, who is played by Michael, I think his last name is Landez, hires him, the best physical therapist in the league. She happens to be a woman. Not just a woman, but a slim, blonde woman. Morgan sees this and is immediately suspicious of the woman. She feels like she's out to get her because that's the type of woman that Morgan is. So real recognizes real. Sloozy recognizes sloozy. Leslie is approached by Morgan and she begs her to be the live-in physical therapist. And Leslie's like, what do you mean? I think her name was like Bella Goldstein is an amazing physical therapist. And she's like, no. I don't want to hear that. I know that she was my man. She's not worried about Scott being attracted to Leslie. She's worried about him being attracted to the blonde. So she don't care about all that. Leslie ends up agreeing, takes time off her job to help. As she gets there, Morgan is leaving for a charity event. She warns Leslie that Scott's mother is there. Be careful because the woman is a pill. But is she a pill or does she just see through Morgan? And I think it's that she saw through Morgan. Leslie walks in, sees his leg bent, and immediately gets on him about elevating his leg and making sure that he puts ice on it. He goes, that feels better. Miss Ella walks in. She says, baby, they keep calling from the office to ask about the game. You know, the game where you broke all those records. Scott says, Ma, you should know. You're the president of my fan club. Leslie chimes in and says, you must be talking about the Randolph versus the MLK 1993 sophomore year. He scored 23 points in the first half, another 32 in the second half, 18 rebounds, 10 assists, and 9 steals, breaking the high school record for double digits in a single game. And, and they're immediately impressed. She adds, I've been a basketball fan since before I could walk. So Miss Ella says, when you finish with him, come to the fan club. You play Bid Whist? I don't know what Bid Whist is, but Miss Ella wanted to know if Leslie plays it. And Leslie says, neighborhood champ, 6 years and running. Miss Ella says, so what are you saying? Leslie says, I'm saying, with all due respect, Miss Ella, you don't want none of this. She says, oh, I like her. I might have to teach her a thing or two, but I like her. I may have got some of that wrong, but y'all, I love that scene because it's just watching two people that are great at what they do go back and forth, and the chemistry with them was believable. Like Common and Felicia Rashad were awesome. Queen and her were, it made me smile when I watched the scene. As you can see, I got excited when I was going over it. But which means in a matter of minutes, Leslie has been able to get the approval of Miss Ella that Morgan hasn't been able to at this point in at least 3 months. We see Leslie give him a deep tissue massage and he is in pain. Morgan is noticing, but she's not saying anything. I mean, as she's rubbing him, you hear him say, oh. He gets up, he falls, but he doesn't want help. Morgan is concerned. As all this is going on, time is passing, tension is rising because Morgan is now forced to spend more time with Scott. And she really doesn't want to do that because she's tired of being in the house. She wants to be out where she can spend his money. So she's finding herself disliking him. Dwight Howard comes over to check on Scott and talk to him about the possibility of the Nets not re-signing him. He brushes it off and says that he's always going to be a Net. But the rumors continue. As the rumors circle that Scott's career could quickly end if he doesn't recover by the playoffs, Morgan decides that she's going to leave him a breakup letter with the ring, and his mother brings the letter to Leslie. Ella tells her she knew it was something about that girl and tells her, "You want to leave? Leave now. You leave too." Leslie says, "Okay, I'm leaving, but I'm coming back." Because Leslie knows where to go, because it's not like Morgan has a whole bunch of places. The girl has no job and she has no home. She knows exactly where she is. She's at Leslie's house. So we see her confront Morgan. She says, "I take a leave of absence from my job to help your man who you just dumped, and you don't even give me the heads up." Morgan claims she's sorry. She was really starting to like him, meaning she said yes to this engagement even though she doesn't love him, because you said I was really starting to like him. She says she left him because she wants to be a somebody. And it ain't going to happen being the wife of some has-been player with some BS contract living in some podunk city, which tells you her mentality over and over and over again. You're reminded of it. What I noticed when she said that is Morgan feels like the only way that she can be somebody is through someone else. And really the only way she can be someone is by improving herself. But I don't even know if she got that even at the end of this movie. So she adds, "You wanted to know why? Now you know. You do you and I do me, okay?" And Leslie says, "You can't possibly be this messed up. I've been watching you do you your whole life. Using people, hurting them, discarding boyfriends like old shoes. You got problems." And Leslie leaves. Morgan didn't even care enough about Leslie to make sure she was good, because what if she did that and Leslie got fired? I mean, Leslie does have another job, but the word of mouth is crucial in that field. And it could have been a situation where he could have spoke ill of Leslie and she could have lost her job. It's just things that people don't think about. So despite the awkward breakup, Leslie decides that she's going to continue to work with Scott. You see him laying around, and it's several days that pass. You don't know many how. You don't know how many. You don't know many. You don't know how many. He doesn't want to work out. He doesn't want to eat. It doesn't even seem like he's really, cleaning up after himself. She knows that this isn't good for him. So she finally decides that she's going to take a stand. So she fills up a bucket and she wakes him up with a bucket of ice by dumping it on him. She ends up having him come in the car. He talks about her hoopty. She tells him to buckle up. They head to the place where he used to practice playing basketball when he was a little kid. She reminds him while he's watching the kids play that as good as the kids are that are playing basketball right now, most of them will never be able to have the opportunities that he has and make it to the league. He says, "Do you think you can get me back before the playoffs?" She says, "We got 8 weeks and you're going to hate me by the time I'm done, but we can do it." Meaning it's time to get to work. So kids end up showing him some stuff because they realize it's Scott McKnight. He says, "Okay, we're going to get back in the league." She encourages him and helps him with his recovery and helps him build his confidence. They bond over their mutual love of basketball, but you also see a mutual love of music. They're building a friendship before our eyes as he works out with his rehabilitation. On one of his works outs, he suggests that she takes her talents to the NBA. And she says, "I could see myself hanging around with a bunch of hot, sweaty guys." He says that ain't cool, which means he was bothered by her saying it. Because she clearly was joking, but he made a face like, "No, that ain't cool. I don't want you being around a bunch of hot, sweaty guys." We see them telling each other personal stories. He tells her how he used to get joked in high school because of wearing the bottle cloak glasses and things of that nature. And she said she didn't have that problem. She was always popular. She told him she was cool with all the nerds and cool with all the jocks and the thugs, but the girls gave her a little bit of drama because the guys always loved having her around them. So Scott says, oh, so you were that girl, huh? And Leslie was like, you know, I wasn't that girl. I was a good girl. He said, yeah, I know you're a good girl. In my mind, this is them clearly flirting, okay? They grab some food from the food truck. She makes a joke about how she thought he would be eating the expensive stuff. We later see them talking about Eleanor. We find out Eleanor is her Mustang. We know he calls it a hoopty, but that hoopty has a name and it's Eleanor. She claims that it was she explains that it's her grandfather. It was her grandfather's car. And he's like, okay, that's great. I understand you wanted to keep it, but why didn't you get the dent in the driver's side door fixed? And she says, I didn't get it fixed because it reminds me of my grandfather who had a dimple on the left side. And in order to get the door fixed, you gotta lose the dimple. And I'd rather keep the dimple, short shoulder and all, because you gotta like hit it with your shoulder to get it to open. It's a whole thing. They talk about his father and how sometimes he wonders if his father is watching him in the stands, which lets you know he doesn't know who his father is. Scott expresses surprise that Leslie isn't seeing anyone. He says, you're great, you're funny, you're smart, and you're attractive. Why are you single? And she says, I haven't found what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the one I can't live without. I freaking love Queen Latifah in this movie. She had more charisma in her scenes with Common to me than Paula did, but you all let me know. So she ends up getting sick. She doesn't think she's getting sick. She sneezes a couple times. She says, I don't get sick. He says, I think you're getting sick. And she does. And he ends up saying, let me take care of you. You're always taking care of everybody else. Let me take care of you. So he makes her soup. You see him feeding her, even though she doesn't want to eat. And they end up falling asleep on the couch. Okay. I need to have a talk with my man, though, because when I was sick, he didn't make me soup. I was not getting that treatment. Then again, I probably wouldn't want him to make me soup. Yeah, it's not everybody's thing. A little bit later, Scott practices in front of the coaches to see if he can get in for Game 7. They say he looks good, but he's missing some things that he would normally be able to do. But they're gonna let him play because they need him. It's late at night, and she discovers that he plays the piano because she hears the sound coming from one of the many rooms. This is a talent that he keeps as a secret because he says it's a hobby and he's much better on the court. So she says, no, don't stop playing, play. So he plays, she sings. He tells her that he's nervous about playing tomorrow. He says, what if I get on that floor tomorrow and it's just like, she says, you won't fail. He says, what if I do? What if my knee goes out on me? What if I can't play anymore? Who would I be without basketball? She says, Scott McKnight, you'll still be you. Basketball is what you do. It's not who you are. And no matter what happens tomorrow, you're still a champion. You're still an extraordinary human being, and you'll still be Scott. It's the way that she speaks life into him. She just at every turn. And this wasn't her trying to get with him. This was just her pouring into him. So we see her with some dessert. It's like some Chips Ahoy cookies with some marshmallows in the middle. And she says, this is my sure cheer up remedy. And he ends up taking a bite of it. And he's like, that's good. That's really good. He's like, I want some more. She's like, nah, player, you can't get no more. And they end up passionately staring at each other, kind of like this, where it looks like they may kiss, but they don't. She tells him, you better get some sleep. So, see Scott. He's playing. He's not doing that well at first until he gets a much needed pep talk from Leslie. She comes from where she's sitting and she says, you are playing like you're afraid this knee is going to fail you. Well, it won't. He says, Leslie, I'm all in. She says, listen to me. Anything you need to do, anything you want to do, you can do. Believe in yourself. You will not fail. Y'all, I'm sorry, I can just hear it in my head. Come on now, let's go to work. He gets back in the game and the man starts playing. I mean, he's making shots left and right. The first half is nothing like the second. He is doing his thing. And before you know it, at the buzzer, he makes the game-winning three-point shot. You see Miss Ella hug her and thank her. You hear the announcer say, when you think about that knee injury and how much fortitude he had to play with just to be on this court, great effort made by McKnight. I don't think that one person watching this game would have thought that Scott McKnight would be back on the court, let alone hit the winning shot. So we see Scott's team are going to be heading back to the NBA Finals. They meet in the back where his mom tells him he's great. He did great. You see him embrace Leslie and tell her thank you. She says, you're welcome. And he says, no, thank you. He decides she needs a bonus, right? I'm going to treat her to a nice dinner. Now, first, I'm like, forget the bonus. Show me the De Niro. Until I saw. So they go to the house to change, and she comes down in this beautiful gown, and he looks at her, and he says, you're so beautiful. And she says, thanks, you are too. It's like he saw how pretty she was before, but in that moment, you can see that he's looking at her differently, and he truly is falling for her. Excuse me. Momentary water break, because I'm talking a lot. So we find out that Scott ends up booking a restaurant. I mean, they're the only ones in there with one of her favorite musicians playing jazz for them. It's extremely romantic. They have a good time. They head back to the house, right? We don't get all the ins and outs of them talking about. We see them laughing. We hear the music playing. It's nice. As a thank you, he presents her with her grandfather's classic Mustang, which has been remodeled and restored. As the car cover is lifted, you hear her say, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Butterfly doors, a sunroof. Eleanor, look at you, girl. And she's checking her out. She's looking at everything. He did everything. It don't even look like the same car. We find out that he had to pay extra to leave the dimple, which is the dent intact in the door. She says, you kept the dimple. So that's why he got her the butterfly doors, so that she can keep the memory of her grandfather. It just shows that he listened. Things like that matter, because he could have easily went out and bought her a car. He probably spent more money remodeling the car than he would have if he bought her a new one. But he knew what this car meant to her, and it shows that he cares. She's so excited. She says she doesn't know what to say, and he tells her, just guarantee me that I'll be your first passenger. So she gives him a peck on his lips. Then he pulls her in, and they are outside of his house, and they are making out on the street. I mean, a nice, passionate kiss is going on. Next thing you know, the music is playing. This is a really good soundtrack. They got some songs up here that I like. I need to go download the soundtrack and see all of them, because they were playing some good songs. Anyway, so they end up spending the night together, and I'm going to say that they made love, because the way they were looking in this scene, this wasn't just a little quickie session. This was like, we're going to enjoy each other and take our time session. So she wakes up. She finds breakfast, I think, in bed with a note that says, enjoy. So you see her dancing and making all types of moves in the bed, because she just had a great night with a great man who she ended up surprisingly having feelings for, and he's having feelings for her. And as she's dancing and going from the night before, there is a knock, doorbell ring, whatever, at the door. She opens the door. It is Morgan that has arrived, hoping to reconcile. I said, this heifer, she's here because she obviously saw the game, and she sees that he's good, and she don't have to worry about being some has-been. So now that he's good, she can come. Leslie lets her know Scott's not here. And she says, I'll wait for him. Let me in. And as she's coming in and they're standing there talking, Scott arrives from his run. Leslie walks off so they can talk, but she can still hear what's going on. So Morgan basically lies, saying that she's in therapy. She's been working on her abandonment issues, which led her to leave Scott in the first place. The girl is full of crap. She hadn't had a drop of therapy in her life, but she gonna tell whatever story she has to tell to get what she wants. So Scott tells her, Morgan, I wouldn't have left you. She tells him that she loves him and that they're meant to be together. He lets her know that he needs time to think about this. So he lets her out. She says, tell Leslie I said goodbye. He then goes into the room to find Leslie packing. He says, Leslie, why are you leaving? She says, you tell me why I'm leaving. Scott says, 3 months ago, this was the woman that I plan to spend the rest of my life with. She's gone through a lot to be with me. Which is laughable because she didn't do anything but plot to be with him. The girl didn't want to go through nothing. What did she go through? The supposed therapy? The girl didn't go to no therapy. She don't even know who she is. He's never even seen the true version of her, but she's gone through a lot. Okay. He says, the last thing I ever wanted to do was hurt you. You are so special to me. She says, I know I'm special to you, Scott. A very special friend. He says, you are. And she says, well, that's not enough for me. Brokenhearted, Leslie just believes she has no chance against Morgan because that's how it's always been. Scott feels like he owes it to Morgan to try to work things out, and Leslie reluctantly goes. This fool let her go after he just had the night that he had with her. They just spent the night together and he let her go. So at this point, I'm mad. I'm mad at Scott. Because what are you doing here? That's the type of guy you are. You can't be nice and then just drop her like that. He didn't find it odd that this woman showed up right after he had this game-winning shot. Now, all of a sudden, she's back after seeing you on national TV. She's healed. Come on now, Scott. But I guess he didn't see it. So Leslie gets in her newly remodeled Mustang, starts punching inside a little bit, and she starts to cry. She breaks down right in front of his house, which as she was crying, I was just like, oh my gosh, Leslie, don't let him see you. Don't let him see you, girl. Don't let him see you, girl. But then part of me's like, that's toxic. Let him see you. Let him see he hurt you. He needs to see he hurt you. But she heads home. She walks in the house and she starts painting the walls. Her father knows that something is wrong and he asks her if she wants to talk about it, and she says it's fine. He knew his baby was hurting, but rather than pushing her, the father just stayed with her so she knew she wasn't alone, which throughout the episode, he always had her back. Her mother, not so much, but he did. Honestly, no. I don't know why I wrote honestly there. Leslie ended up returning back to her old job, where she let them know that Scott was a great employer, and now she's looking forward to what's next. Her friends are like, what's next? She was like, yeah, what's next? She wants to take her talents to the NBA. Meanwhile, we see Morgan and Scott going out on dates, and her even at one point asking him if it's too soon to try to book the place where they were originally planning to have their wedding. He tells her he needs to take time and he needs them to approach things slowly this time. He quickly sees while he's with Morgan that he's not as happy with her as he was before. After all, to me, she's no Leslie Wright. On these dates, she was getting expensive things. She was doing things to be seen, and that's not what Leslie would do. It's clear that Morgan wasted no time, because at one point, wasting no time being back in the house, because at one point he was playing music in that same room, and she asked if she could close the door, while Leslie would have joined in or wanted to listen to him. The man clearly isn't happy. Leslie's later surprised to discover she's being sought out by multiple basketball teams. There's the Suns, the 76ers, and the Nets. Sorry, y'all. My nose ring felt like it was dropping out, but it's not. The Suns, the 76ers, and the Nets. They were impressed by her notable work helping Scott recover from his injury. So she's getting so many offers that she ends up hiring an agent. She's excited to get an offer from the Nets, but realizes that she would have to work with Scott and reluctantly turns down the offer. So she was so hurt that she couldn't even bear to work with the man. She then decides to interview with other teams. After that impressive win, Norma lets Scott know that the Nets are offering him a 5-year contract to finish out the series. He also lets him know that he has a new client, Leslie. Now, Norman is Scott's best friend. They've been friends since high school. So I thought it was kind of ironic that he told him that. He said she has 5 teams interested in her, including the Nets. Scott's like, she's working with the Nets. He says, no, she turned them down, but she's strongly looking at the 76ers. And he walks off like he said nothing. I thought it was kind of convenient for him to say it. I think that he may have saw something there. Maybe he knew what was going on. I don't know. We see Leslie packing to meet the 76ers. Her mother is trying to confront her about why she's not working with her beloved Nets. And she says, you're running from something. Leslie's like, I'm not running from anything. I just want to explore my options. Her mother says, you fell in love with that man, didn't you? You hear her dad saying, Janice, leave the girl alone and let her get out the door, because that's what he does. He tries to protect his daughter. He says, baby, that kind of man. No, she says, baby, that kind of man. And her father says, any man too blind or too stupid not to realize how special you are. She says, daddy, daddy, daddy. He says, I'm just saying. She says, it's fine. Don't worry. Her mother, because she don't think she's supposed to get that man, is sitting there looking at her. And Leslie's like, the girl who's supposed to get the guy like that, she got him. Because that's what her mother has always instilled in her. She's always acted like Leslie being herself, I thought I was going to sneeze, wasn't enough when it was. She tells them she loves them and that she'll call them when she's there. While this is going on, you have Scott doing his interview, He's doing his national television interview. And Scott credits Leslie with his recovery. He's asked, how in the world did you do it? Scott says, 2 words. Leslie Wright. Stewart says, the physical therapist that helped you out, right? Scott says, she did more than that, Stewart. A lot more. She saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself. She believed in me so much, she practically willed me back to the game. Yeah, it was a lot of hard work, but even when I was in pain and wanted to quit, she wouldn't let me. Instead, Leslie, she made me laugh. As he's saying this, you see the people from her show watching it. You see Morgan sitting in the studio watching him talk about it. And you see Leslie's mom watching. And they're all realizing something here while he's saying it. Somehow, she made the worst 3 months of my life the best 3 months of my life. I wouldn't be here without her. Stewart says, she sounds special, man. He says, yeah, she is. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, man. There's some place I need to be. After praising her, he comes to the realization that he loves her. For the first time, we see Morgan care about someone other than herself, and she sees that he loves Leslie, and she tells Scott where Leslie is. The camera pans to Leslie leaving the 76ers meeting. As she's coming down, she hears some jazz playing off in the distance. She turns the corner and she sees Scott sitting on his car, and the dialogue begins. Y'all, bear with me because it's a lot of back and forth, but I had to write it because I want you all who aren't going to watch this to see the scene. I know it's currently on HBO Max. I know sometimes it is also free on YouTube. I don't know if it's still currently free, but if you can watch it, watch it. Leslie, I want to talk to you. What are you doing here, Scott? Leslie was mad. Leslie, look, I know you don't want to see me, but I need Scott. You're right. I don't know why are you here. He says, for the same reason, I'm willing to leave the nets. I'm in love with you. I know that now. She goes, no. What you know now is that the woman you were going to marry is not the woman you thought she was. So here you are now, looking for your plan B, huh? You want your best friend? You want your cheerleader that was there for you when the chips were down? Well, guess what, Scott? I don't want to be plan B, and I don't want to be that even for Scott McKnight. He says, listen to me, Leslie. Listen, you're not my fallback plan. I'm not here because things didn't work out with Morgan. You can be stubborn all you want, but I know you. She says, you don't know me. He says, I know you, and I know you love me. I know those feelings inconveniently fade away because you're mad at me, and you have every right to be. But I'm not leaving these grounds without you. I'm not waking up another morning without being able to look at you next to me. I said, woo! I said, you go, Scott, you go, Scott. You better tell your woman what you want. He says, Leslie, you're just right for me. And if I have to move to Philadelphia or to Cleveland or wherever I gotta go, I am. She walks off. She grabs her phone to make a phone call. He says, you're kidding me. You're kidding me, right? You're gonna make a call while I'm pouring out my heart to you? Oh, I don't have a phone right here. She couldn't dial those numbers fast enough. Tim, Leslie Wright, is that offer still on the table? Great. Well, you have a new Nets trainer. She gets off the phone and they embrace, they kiss, and he says, I love you. She says, I love you too. It's a year later. Leslie and Morgan are watching Scott play. Leslie is now the Nets athletic trainer. She's cheering loud for Scott. She's talking junk the same way that she always does. And it is revealed that not only is she a trainer, but she's also Scott's wife. And that is the end. I look at people like Morgan who are looking for love for the wrong. Well, I can't even say looking for love. They're looking at men for the wrong things. Like, it's not about the love. It's about what they think they can get. Morgan didn't know who she was. And for some reason, Leslie's mother kept comparing these two people when her daughter was the real prize. I was happy to see a love story with someone who looks more like me getting the happy ending. It's okay for the homegirl to be your lover and to be your friend. And it's okay for your partner not to be a sample size. I like this movie because the chemistry with Leslie and Scott felt authentic. There were times where I laughed and there were times where I felt like I wanted to cry. On a scale of 1 to 5, I'm going to give this movie a 4. You all let me know what your number is. Thanks for watching. Please like the video. Until next time.